So this is just a brief introduction to the blog, the events prior to the blog, and what I intend to do with the blog in general. So the blog itself is called AcneandMe.com, and basically it's a blog that I think it could help people. It's basically for people that have suffered from acne, do still suffer from acne, and could potentially suffer from acne in the future at any point. I mean, everyone gets spots, and anyone who says that they don't or never have spot, just get ready, because you one day you'll get a spot. They're not quite nice. They make people insecure. Normally if it's just like a small spot or one or two, then it's not a big deal, but when you're a teenager, like when I started getting acne I was only 13, and that's the details that are added on the blog. I'll put a link in the description about it. It's hard when you have that. What I explain on the blog is that when I was 13 I thought, oh, it's just a couple of spots, they'll go away in a month or two and that would be fine. Now 5 years on, I'm 18 years old and I still suffer from spots, and it's not just one or two here and there, it is two and that would be fine. Now 5 years on, I'm 18 years old and I still suffer from spots, and it's not just one or two here and there, it's bad. When I was growing up with acne, I always felt super insecure. I was always a confident person, like my personality is so confident, and I've never kind of suffered from anything like depression or kind of anxiety from it, but it does affect you, and you will constantly grow up and people will constantly tell you, oh, don't care about and don't worry about what other people think. People are going to tease you for it and people are going to be nasty to you, but don't care about it. I mean, God could come out of the sky and tell you to not care what other people think, but you're still going to care. No matter how much you tell yourself, it's human nature and that happens and you care about it. So growing up I was on a lot of different medication. I was on so much medication I don't actually remember all of it, so I'm just going to scroll down to the blog and remind myself of some of them I was on. So I started off kind of relatively on soft medication because it wasn't that severe. So I started off on things like retinol and retin-A creams. It's basically like kind of, I think it's vitamin E that's in it, and it was basically to dry up the skin and dry out the spots and kind of draw out the impurities and stuff. That did not work. My face it didn't legit crumble, but it just started to look nasty, and it made me feel even worse about myself, which, being a teenage girl, the majority of us are under pressure enough, which is ridiculous, but unfortunately we are, and that just made it a whole lot worse for me. So I went back to the doctors and basically said, look, this is not working for me, what can I do? So they put me on lots of different things. I think it was erythromycin I was on first, and then I went on to clarithromycin, then I was on oxytetracycline. I've been on this medication for so long that this is the only reason I know how to say them. And of course I was on kind of like the good old contraception, the contraceptive pill, because that's supposed to balance out your hormones, which to an extent it did, but it was a vicious cycle for me. I was constantly, my skin would get so much better and it would be more like this side of my face, and I would be so excited and so happy, and then 2 months down the line, 3 months down the line, I'm still taking my medication, still getting everything that I should be doing and doing everything normal, and my skin would start to look like this again and worse. Now for guys, some guys genuinely don't care, but for girls it's a big deal. Even though we can cover it with makeup, again there's certain pressures that are on girls that aren't on guys, if that makes sense. And unfortunately, as ridiculous as that is, that's just the way that life is at the moment, and shit happens, and all we can do is kind of go against that or go into it. It's up to the individual. When I was about 16, I found out about Roaccutane through, I think it was through one of my sister's friends that were on it. And all of a sudden I was so interested in this kind of wonderful pill and medication that was instantly going to make me better. But the thing about Roaccutane, or Accutane as other people know it as, is it has the biggest amount of side effects I have ever seen for acne medication. There's probably some that have more, but these are a little more serious. Some of them include things like you will definitely get dry skin. Like if your skin is not dry already, your skin will be so dry. Your lips will be so dry. It can dry out your eyeballs, obviously not so they break or anything, but it can dry out your eyeballs, so you would need like a drop. Your earlobes can dry out, that's kind of weird. You can get constant nosebleeds. I know one of my friends in high school had nosebleeds like every second class, and it was like, okay. You can have terrible mood swings, so one minute you'd be so happy and so excited and so as if you're having like a spiritual awakening, and then the next thing you know you don't want to talk to anyone, you don't want to look at anyone, you want to be in your bed and just on Tumblr or something. It can be that bad. You can also have things like you can begin to develop depression and suicidal tendencies, and that is a story that specifically at Roaccutane. There's so many horror stories about it, but there's also so many success stories. There's so many worse things in the world than that, but when you're a 16-year-old girl and you have this mass on your face and you don't know, you're trying everything to do about it but you can't do anything, it's hard. And I'm not going to tell anyone it's easy because it's not, but there's ways of getting through it. This is going to sound so bad and cheesy, but you learn to get over it. I mean, I'm 18 now and I still get quite a lot of spots. Just now they're a little worse because I recently started a course of Roaccutane after a lot of persistence and kind of debating with the doctors. And basically this blog is going on my journey with Roaccutane, because even though there was so much information there about the side effects and kind of what I had to do in preparation during and after the medication, I don't feel that there was enough information there about the actual experience in itself. So that's why I think it's important to inform people like that and to give people an idea of a first-hand experience or watching somebody else go through what they could potentially go through, and that would give them a better judgment as to whether it's worth it or not. So I will need to do a disclaimer. I will do a disclaimer right now. As far as I'm aware, I'm not a doctor. I don't remember going to university for it or anything, so if people are going to say like, you told me to do this and I've done it and now look what's happened, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm giving you advice, I'm giving you my experience, and I'm telling you what works for me. I'm also going to I'm planning on doing things like tutorials and things for how to cover it.